Hey all you people, welcome back for another fantastic night of some Division 1 action here at SRA. This week we're going to be taking a shot at Oulton Park in the wet. Tonight I'm joined by my best friend once again in the whole wide world. Best person, my favorite person that I've ever met, Mr. Josh Damiani. What's up, Josh?
Not too much. Excited to be back in the booth for another round of Division 1 action, but for the first and only time this season in the wet.
I'm right there with you, excited to be back. Had a week off last week and couldn't be happier to have returned. And I'm
It's
really
great to have you back.
Thank you. Really excited for Oulton. One of my favorite tracks, one of my favorite tracks to watch, to race on, anything. So it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it really is a hoot to go around this track and to see everybody fight for room as they dip their way through the banked corners, especially the hairpin of turn 5. It's always just a great time to watch. So 17 corners, technically 16. I mean, I guess you can call that kink up the hill a turn in the wet here because it does like to kick the back end out. But pretty much every corner on this track is crucial to your lap time. Turn 15 is a whole lot of fun, especially when the marker boards disappear. You'll see a lot of people struggle. Hopefully they stick around here in D1, but in the other broadcast you may notice some missing scenery.
Oh yeah.
But realistically, I don't know what's going to be an overtaking or not an overtaking zone here. I don't think I've ever been involved in a wet race on this track.
I mean, you got turn one. Turn 1, as always, is going to be a prime overtaking spot. Here in the wet, something that we can actually watch for, a door that might be opened for these drivers, is an overtake on the outside in that corner. It's kind of hard to gauge where track limits are, and when people are racing, they might not be very willing to go all the way out there. And I've seen oftentimes the door get kind of left open there, so...
Fair enough.
That's
The one turn I do want to watch, I will say, and that's just from experimenting with lap times in practice, is turn 3. I noticed that when I washed wide, there was still a considerable amount of grip. So it'll be interesting to see if some people almost intentionally move to the outside on that corner, as there is room, more room than there is at turn 1.
Yep, I'd agree. I'd say any overtaking will have to get done between turns 16, 1, and I guess that's 3. Looking over at the team standings, we've got TSE Madhouse, Drive Merc Vroom sitting on top by a whole 3 points. That's Dylan Stallworth and Ryan Yee sitting on top of the number 2 team, TSE Drive Audi Vroom. That's Jeremy Mercer and Peter O'Brien's team. And following them up a good 27 points back is Timothy Flomger and Austin Carpenter's team in the Lambo Alpha Sim Sport. And Comic Racing Sharks isn't too far behind them, so those will be teams to watch for this race and see how they do. And here we have the driver standings. Ed Kerstetter still sitting pretty on that top position. What do you think, Josh?
I'm just staring at Ryan Yee, who's already up to 6th now after last week.
I would, if I was a betting man, I'd bet he's moving up even more today.
I just can't take my eyes off of that. Like, I think it's going to be the driver to watch tonight for sure, as this is round 6, so only 2 rounds left, and you really start getting into the nitty gritty here. You can't afford to have a slip up, and a race in the wet could be an easy one for mistakes.
Oh yeah. And then of course we've got Timothy Flomger in 2nd and Michael Minning following them up in 3rd. Those are going to be your podium guys. Timothy Flomger and Michael Minning not too far apart from each other, so you could very well see a switch tonight depending on how they do. Ed Kerstetter, though, is 40 points up, and I'm willing to bet he stays in that top position as well.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see how the race goes, but I was going to say the only real gap other than at the lead would be between Mr. Sir and Mia Rose, and even from herself back, it's still a very close fight between all the drivers, so still could be a lot of shakeup as we get towards the end of this championship.
Mm-hmm. With that, we do have our quali underway. D1 Silver drivers are out on the track, Travis Robinson being the lead driver of that pack. Let's peel our eyes back and witness some greatness today, Josh.
Yeah, this is the pace that some of these D1 drivers can pull out in the wet here is just leaves you scratching your head. I mean, some of the leaderboard times, with the way that Assetto Corsa's weather system works, it's not a perfected outcome, and it does still have a slight bit of variance to it, so some people got a dry track, and that's why we saw 33s on the leaderboard, but still, some of these guys down in the 38s. I don't know if we saw 37s in medium wet conditions, but it'll be interesting to see what this server actually gives us. And just looking at the weather widget, it looks like it should be about the same for silvers and golds. Nobody should really have an advantage here.
I do see that at the 10-minute mark, it is going to get a little bit wetter, so there's a chance that at the end of the D1 Gold stint, they might have a tougher time improving. Their best laps might come early.
See, the Assetto Corsa widget is slightly vague in the sense that I've seen that diagram show for both a light and medium condition in an Armamentario overlay, actually giving quite difference in lap times, but the I don't know, I could see that just being like the lower end of medium to the higher end of medium. I don't think we'll actually see any heavy wet conditions, so realistically with the amount of cars out there, it should be about the same for everybody. keeping that dry line dry.
Yep. I'm just a broadcaster. I'm not a weatherman. I'm not the greatest at reading these weather instruments, but they're also not the greatest at telling us the truth, you know?
Yeah, they're liars, liars, plants for hires.
Exactly.
But something we can read is Mr. Bray starting off with a great lap time at 39.3 as the bar, and he's already up 5/10 on that lap time.
Yeah.
So
He's quick out there right now. A couple people have very solid deltas right now, John Sparks included.
I think that would lean this maybe closer to a light rain and slowly increasing to a heavier side of medium. Because I don't know. This does also seem like not that much standing water on the track at the moment.
Yeah, it doesn't look too bad at all. Dry line already seems to be forming.
A lot of drivers with some huge deltas right now. Sam Reck, Nick Sand, and Michael Louie all teetering around 1 second improvement.
JD Daniel just crossed the line to take over that top spot for the time being. Going almost 400ths faster than Bray. And yeah, the times, not so much anymore, but they were absolutely all over the place. Currently the primary gap, oh, well, as I say that, Bray crosses the line with a 38.6, goes 5/10ths faster than the next fastest guy, Michi, and the gap is 1.6 seconds from top to bottom.
Something that seems to be more typical in the wet is larger deltas between positions, and I mean, still just over a second and a half to clear the silvers. We've got a couple of drivers who still haven't managed to set a lap yet, but that's pretty close. Just with the rainfall, like, conditions can change halfway through a lap technically.
Right. Track temperature's currently sitting at 26 degrees Celsius. I'm going to be eyeballing that to see if it gets any cooler.
Nate Specht in the picture-in-picture working on his first lap. It's a little bit wide in Sector 2, but keeps it within the lines.
Travis Robinson just crossed the line and took the second spot. He's only, oh man, he's only 1/100th off of Bray.
He's already delting enough to overtake him, so we'll see where the peak of this silver pace ends up, but just under 3 minutes left in their qualifying.
Dan Good crosses the line, shoots up 4 places after being 4/10ths up on his delta.
And Nate Specht finally finds a spot on the board, 8th place.
P8 with his first lap feels good. Now he has a delta to build off of and 2 laps remaining. Sam Reck, yellow flag. He just went wide at turn 3.
Could be pulling off.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was.
JD Daniel, sizable improvement at the moment, working his way into Sector 3.
And he's got a lot of pace in the bag. He's going to be somebody I'm going to keep my eye on for Silver Pole tonight. Him, Bray, Robinson are going to be a couple guys to watch here.
Oh, and he's got a car in front of him now. Oh, it seems to be the car on our main screen, Travis Robinson.
That's not going to affect him too much as he's got a solid delta crossing the line.
Take pole position, 77 thousandths.
Took pole position. He's feeling good. Robinson pulls off. He must have had a really bad turn 1.
Yeah, he's quitting before it even starts.
Yep. Now Bray is going to cross the line, doesn't improve, but has enough time left to take 1 more lap for a spin. and unfortunately invalidates his lap on turn 1. So his quali is over, currently sitting in P2. I don't know if anybody is going to be poised to take this pole position for the silvers away from Daniel.
At the moment, no, it doesn't seem to be the case, but everybody's still making small improvements across the board.
Yeah, a couple decent improvements on the board, Dan Good being one of them. John Sparks is looking to gain a couple positions, as is Dan Cran. Then you've got Brooker Quigg with a second a second improvement on his delta.
But also 2.3 seconds off the pace. So
Yeah.
just trying to bring himself back to a respectable time.
Well, he's taking the last corner now, and doesn't look like it was too kind to him.
That's odd. It almost seems like the Audi lost all its pace in Sector 3.
Right.
Nate Specht with a big improvement, working his way.
Yep. Just ahead of him, we've got Dan Cran crossing the line up 3/10. That's gonna gain him 1 position as he passes Michi. Then
Nate
moving
with a
back to
great
Nate.
Turn 15.
Yeah, nails the last corner. Goes up to P5. Silver P5 for Nate. It's going to be a great result for him, especially with the limited number of laps.
And here come the big guns. Gold drivers have been released. Who's your pick for overall pole tonight?
Ryan Yee. Easy pick for this. Although he is in the Merc, he's in the Mercedes, and I don't know if that's a great track here, or a great car at this track or not. By the way, there is still 1 silver to go. Looks like Brooker Quigg actually had crossed the line with another shot under his belt. Now he's going to cross the line again and take 3 positions away from a couple drivers. Moves up to P12.
Interesting.
Found an improvement right at the end. Now our D1 drivers wind up at that final corner and give it a go down the pit straight. Top 3 I'm going to be looking at here. Ryan Yee, Mr. Sir, It's tough to think of the third one before I've seen any times get dropped. Let's say, let's go with the safe pick and say Kerstetter.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I really have no idea, but I gotta say that one of these Lamborghinis is probably gonna end up near the top. It just seems like that car is, judging by our silver quality, doing well in the wet. So.
Oh yeah, definitely looks like a good car at the moment.
And 3 strong drivers behind the wheel: Fosli Majid, Timothy Flamger, and Michael Menning. No slouches there. As Menning is just finishing his first lap. Starts it off with a 39.3. Ryan Yee immediately jumps to the top with 38.5.
That's bonkers. That man doesn't need a delta to do it. Immediately
He's probably
a nice
laughing
lap
behind the wheel.
Oh yeah. I meant to say earlier, I do think we're going to see 37s today.
I think it's possible. I'm not sure. But
Well, you know what?
I always like to give my hope for these guys.
Yeah,
But
I think it might not happen. The track temps dropped to 25, which makes me think it has gotten a little wetter, and just from the eye test, I think it is getting a little wetter.
yeah, there definitely seems to be more standing water off the racing line, especially coming down the straightaways.
Yeah, and then with all these D1 drivers, 80% of them are in the red. The ones that aren't, I think, might have just put in laps that weren't ideal for them on their first lap out.
Could be the
Maybe
case.
that shakes up. For instance, Ryan Yee is currently 7/10 off his delta, so...
Yeah, maybe that's why everybody just kind of, like, it seemed like nobody really filed up in Sector 3. They all just kind of made their gap early and kept their feet down.
Right?
Foots, jeez. But maybe it was that changing conditions, just trying to beat the flip over to medium.
Right? Well, Flomger is going to make a solid improvement. So he goes up to P7. And you know what? I'm seeing some green now. They've still got a fighting shot.
Definitely, but Ryan's still got 5/10 to the closest driver in his division. Mr. Sir taking a very creative route towards the hairpin there.
Yeah. Right as I switch away from him. If only I had switched sooner, I wouldn't have cursed him, you know? Hits that wall. It's very unforgiving. He immediately goes back to pits.
That's right, Deegan. First Dougie. Gotta count them. I wish I had Teach Me How to Dougie on the soundboard.
Track definitely looks wetter now from this point of view. But I tell you what, that's not going to stop Michael Minning, as he's going to cross the line up 9/10, which is going to be enough. It's going to be enough to put him on pole position for the moment.
By a 1/10 and a half, 38.395.
Yeah,
very strong lap.
He crushed Sector 1 by 3/10, crushed Sector 3 by 3/10. Lamborghini looks extremely fast here. I think you're right. Currently have 5 Lamborghinis in the top 8.
Peter O'Brien making small improvements. Well, not a small improvement. Up about half a second.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I see half a second on my Delta, I'm gonna feel nice.
Yeah, doing things a little bit different this season. Instead of having 2 wet races and 2 night races, we're only doing 1 each.
I like that.
At this point in the season, this would have been our 2nd wet race, I believe. So, a little bit more, seemed like a little bit more of a skittish first couple laps, especially for the silvers, getting themselves ready. Just, I don't know. I do not practice the wet unless I have to. I don't know about yourself.
I don't hate driving in the wet because I don't think I'm that bad at it, but it's definitely not my preference. I'd rather drive in the dry.
Oh, for sure.
Fazli Majid gets yellow, goes off the service road and returns to pits. Timothy Flomger goes yellow after invalidating on his turn 1. He returns to the pits. Diego looks to do the same. Ryan Yee is teetering on an even delta at the moment. If he can improve by a little bit over 1/10, he can take pole position back for himself. And at this point, I don't think he's going to get a hero lap in at the end. I think this is going to be his final lap. Currently a little bit more in the red. As he approaches the final corner, he's going to race to the finish line to see if he can get a shot. No, I'm totally miscalculating it. This is going to be his final lap. And there is no green on his delta, unfortunately, so he's going to stay in P2. I believe Michael Minning has safely secured his pole position.
Yeah, with a slight improvement on his delta. I mean, negative now, but should be safe.
You think his engineer is letting him know that he doesn't have anybody to challenge him? Oh boy.
Oh, for certain. Oh, it hit the gap. Look at that.
He almost threaded the needle. He probably wasn't very happy with that happening, but if he knew what we know, I think he would be much happier. He has all but secured that pole position. Max Simmons is the last driver on a valid lap at the moment, but his delta is showing red.
I'm going to take this break between sessions quickly to grab a little beverage.
Sounds like a good time. Max rolls into the pits, knows he's not going to improve. Just wanted a little practice, it looks like. That'll be it for quali, folks.
Alright, there's some rain in this session, so watch out for slippery curves and remember to brake earlier.
Awesome job by Michael Minning. Fantastic way to snatch pole away. 1/10.5 above the rest. I will watch the race between these guys on the front row with my eyes wide open. I suggest all you folks watching do the same. With 1.5 minutes left before they start rolling, let's take a look at some liveries. Michael Minning with that white and black Lamborghini with a kind of Damascus steel design on top of it. Looks great. Ryan Yee's yellow, gray, and white Mercedes with a wireframe laying on top. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, but I think it looks cool either way. Then you got Daniel and Bray in some very metallic blue Lamborghinis. Another Lamborghini behind them in Robinson, that green boy. Dan Cran with his gorgeous pink Mercedes. No, that's not a Force India. It's just a pink Mercedes. Very nice.
I feel like that was acceptable.
I think it was perfectly acceptable. I think I teed you up nicely for that.
It was great timing.
By the way, I'm just noticing in the top 7 there are 5 D1 silver drivers. Nate Specht is sitting in P7 right now. Flomger and Kerstead are following up that pack.
I guess there really was a slight advantage to the silver side of the session.
Oh yeah, the golds had a lap, maybe two, to put down their best and get a good shot in, but after that, I don't think they had a dry enough track to take over the rest of those D1 silver guys that had put down some pretty decent laps themselves.
Now we get to see our first taste of my favorite part of wet driving, the spray.
Yeah.
Like, even though they're going slow, I don't know. It's very blinding, very quick. Especially towards the back of the pack. Look at that.
Yeah.
Nate Specht can't see anything in front of Dan Grant's car.
Yeah, they're hardly even moving, but there might as well not be any cars up there.
Yeah.
It's gonna look significantly worse at the green lights. By the way, I think the track is warmed up substantially. Was it? Am I wrong, or was it 15 degrees Celsius during quali? Might have been 25, but it was either 15 or 25. Maybe it was 25.
Someone says was 25. 6 actual.
Thank you for letting me know. Oh, somebody already takes out one of those pretty pylons. I wish those were permanent on this track, because sometimes they can be very useful.
Yeah, I wonder why they don't use the ones that like flop over like they do on the highway and stuff.
Right. I think there are some racetracks that do use those. This one, that pylon right there on the right, in particular, I would love if it stayed there. I love using that thing. But I'm pretty sure you can knock it down and still be well within track limits, so. Cars are lined up side by side, approaching the final corner. Very excited to see the battle at the beginning of this race between Menning and Yi. JD Daniel and Bray following them up on the second row of the grid. Robinson and Cran behind them. And Nate Specht and Timothy Flomger on the fourth row. In a wet race like this, it's anybody's game. They're approaching the start-finish line, and they're off and away. Ryan Yi doesn't get the best start, and Michael Menning is able to stay well ahead of him. No challenge in turn one. Front of the pack takes turn one super cleanly. Looks like, for the most part, it was, one driver goes off, but other than that, pretty clean opening.
Oh. Couple cars in the back just dancing.
Yeah, Stallworth and Simmons both.
Stallworth was the first car that went off there, and then everyone else in front just kind of got unsettled by the bump and got excused to the grass. Oh, and we've got a Porsche sideways at the hairpin.
Yeah, a couple people break a little too late at the hairpin, and some nastiness happens. That's Louis and Majid. Took a little trip to the beach as they get their cars stuck in the sand. Hopefully, though, their damage isn't too bad and they can get back on track. In the wet like this, you have an opportunity to make up a lot of places, even if you lose them like that, so it's not over for him yet. As, very unfortunately, Bray goes into the grass and has to take a long ride back to his rejoin. Loses.
Did we notice Michael Menning got a drive-through?
We did not.
I just saw that there for a second, and I thought it was a glitch. What? How does P1 get a drive-through?
You know, he's going to serve it right away, which puts Ryan Yee in the front of the pack. I think it's over, boys.
Is he going to serve the drive-through, or is he going to serve his pit stop?
It looks like he's going to serve his drive-through. That's what I would do. I'd probably do the drive-through and then just ride it out as long as I can. Yeah,
That
serves
is
his drive-through.
painful.
Very painful. And Bray, who I believe was in P3 or P4, earlier we saw him take a trip in the grass, loses out, and goes down to P18 at first, and now he's up in P14 with the pits happening. Loses out on about 10 or 11 positions. Feels really bad for him too.
This has opened the door wide open for Ryan Yee.
Yep. I have a feeling we might be watching a Max Verstappen-esque riding off into the sunset Ryan Yee today, as he's already 2 seconds ahead of JD Daniel and not to
Climbing.
oh yeah, climbing and climbing. 2.1 seconds now. Not to discount the talent of any of these D1 silver drivers, but the nearest D1 gold driver to Ryan Yee at the moment is Kerstetter in P5. And I don't think he's going to have an easy shot at getting close to Ryan Yee or find any ability to put laps down that might challenge him, just because of the gap that's already built.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if he will have that opportunity or not. A lot of people diving into the pits trying to space themselves out, get some visibility.
I think this is a track where the undercut's going to be pretty powerful. I think I might just utilize that strategy tomorrow if it works out tonight, but I have a feeling it will. Maybe not for anybody on the top in the top 5, but we'll see. I was wrong in Nürburgring.
Only time will tell.
Time will tell. Speaking of time, we still have 55 minutes left in this race. "55 minutes of action." Our biggest fight at the moment is Nate Specht chasing Dan Cran for that podium position. He's got Kerstetter on his tail.
Nick Sand jumps into the pits. Just kind of a snake right now. Nobody really trying anything. Everyone's just trying to stay close to each other. I don't know. I always have a hard time settling in wet races. How do you feel?
I have a pretty tough time in wet races. Lap 1 is always I mean, I think for most people, lap one's already nerve-wracking, and when it's in the wet, especially if it's dark and wet and you can't see anything past the spray, I have a hard time keeping my composure. Thus, it's not super easy to get settled in. But after a while, once I can get out of spray, maybe after pitting early or just easing back off the guy in front of it, I'd say I feel pretty at home, pretty comfortable. Speaking of pretty comfortable, Nate Specht is not. He's got Kerstetter closing in and fast.
As Peter O'Brien is also closing in on Diego Fibras Casas in the picture. Seems like they heard us say nobody wants to try anything, and now they all want to try things.
Right?
Get their chance for some 5 seconds of fame.
If you're gonna try anything, it's gotta happen early, I think.
It all depends on your battle, though. Like, if somebody that was near you pit early for undercut, yeah, you gotta try and make that move early. But if you and the car ahead are just pushing and you don't feel like they're holding you up at all, just stay where you're at. Don't force it to happen.
Ryan Yee now leading JD Daniel by 4 seconds. First place.
It's going to be quite the gap by the time we get to the end of this race at that pace.
Yeah, and that's not...
Only lapping half a second faster.
Yep. Also has the fastest lap of the race. Of course, that's not a diss at all to JD Daniel. JD Daniel's an incredibly fast driver, D2 champion from last season. But Ryan Yee is just a different breed.
Yeah, credit where credit's due. He is one fast fella and not someone you want to have staring at your trunk.
Nate Specht has fallen off of Dan Cran for the time being. He's currently almost a second and a half behind, as he's been looking at Kerstetter in his rearview mirror, I'm sure.
Push when you're racing in your mirrors.
It's hard to try to overtake the guy in front of you when you know the guy behind you is trying to overtake you. That's how that works, right?
The compound effect. Big slide from O'Brien in turn 1.
Kerstetter getting even closer, maybe setting up for something here. Has a very clean exit through that chicane, almost chicane. And is gonna look up the inside.
Faz Majid had
Breaks
another
later.
incident and has left the race.
Breaks later, but sticks it and is ahead of Nate Specht for the moment, though Nate Specht might just pull off a switchback. Now Nate Specht has the inside and comes out of that final corner relatively clean, but Kerstetter carried a lot of speed, so they're going to be going side by side into turn 1.
This is just going to keep going. Great respect from both drivers, giving each other room.
Yep, and as they've been doing a lot of hard racing, we've got Michi.
Ooh, as they
oh
bump
boy.
doors on the exit, Nate's going to lose an extra position there.
Yeah, Nate loses the spot. Michi gets up ahead. Tough.
Ed saw the door open on the inside and licked the stamp and sent it.
Yeah.
Cars met at the exit.
It's a tough corner to go side by side in there, but
And with Nate trying to get the power back on the outside, coming back onto the wet portion of the track, it's just one of those spots.
yeah, recipe for disaster. Maybe the inside car can be a little more careful, but I don't know how much they're entitled to there in that moment. I think it's
We're not stewards.
yeah, we're not. They're out. That one's going to be much more up in the air.
We're just here to commentate.
Exactly. Now Michi ahead of Specht is only 0.8 behind Kerstetter. Few positions back, fighting for P8. We've got John Sparks chasing Dan Good, only 0.3 behind. Like Travis Robinson and Nick Sand get into it in the hairpin. Both drivers spin out onto the grass, into the sand, and I believe 4 drivers take their place. Yep, that's the birthday bump for Nick Sand they were talking about. I think I saw someone say that there was a punishment for whoever it was that sent it into Nick. I'm sure it was accidental, but does that still stand? Who knows? Ooh, Diego gets the yellow flag treatment as he is sitting in the grass in a very rough looking spot and exits the game. That'll be it for Diego this evening. it was Michael Minning on pole today, right, Josh? Yes, Cody. I believe it was.
I was talking to myself. I believe so. I said I believe so, and then you started mimicking. I'm like, oh, I must be muted.
Yep. Yeah, so I believe it was Michael Minning on pole. I'm fairly certain. And he is not in the race anymore. I think the drive through from pole position at the start was just a little bit too much for him. If you missed it at the start, he got a big jump, big lead from Ryan Yee, made it into turn one with no challenge. It looked really fast, but I'm guessing it was too fast. He was probably a little bit too far ahead at the start. Champion Motorsports driver Matt Lehman in that beautiful McLaren, looking to challenge Bray here. Bray was one of the quickest drivers on the grid today, but after suffering from some tough happenstance early in the race is down a few positions, so let's see how that shakes up.
Yeah, still a good amount of race left to go. 41 minutes.
Absolutely is. Matt Lehman, back from what I believe was a long vacation. A warranted and well-earned vacation, I might add, if you know or notice the number 1 on the side of his car, marking the fact that he was last year's champion. Max Dig says feels like a long race. Yeah, I'm right here with you on that. Wet races tend to have that effect, I think.
That, and this track is so small that they're doing so many laps.
Yep.
I mean, it feels small. Lap times are a little bit slower, but
it's a lot of driving. Matt Lehman actually falling off a little bit pace-wise. Bray and O'Brien are running away from him, even though they're fighting up ahead. Three-way fight up here in front of Lehman. Gosh, Peter O'Brien, I think. Yeah, Peter O'Brien's Audi livery is so awesome. I love that wave.
Ed looking at a move down the inside at Dan Crane. He's going to take it because Dan Crane goes deep.
Oh boy.
Ed's going to find another position here, slowly moving himself up to a podium spot, but still 14.5 seconds off the leader.
Awesome move by Bray there. Can O'Brien respond though? He's still right on his tail. Samrek gets... Well, Samrek lets Bray past. Samrek hasn't pit yet, so he's being a kind and respectful guy there. It's not required to let him pass as he's not blue flagged, but it's nice that he did. They aren't really racing. Victor Diaz drives into the grass before the hairpin. Very lucky to stop it, but oh, gets spun around and finally finds a way to slop back onto the track. Lucky he didn't nail a wall there, though. Now we're on board with Nate Specht as he's approaching the rear of Mert Michi. Only 3/10 behind. By the way, Matt Lehman picked up a drive-through. I hate to see that. I'm guessing it was a track limits violation, or a set of track limits violations.
Oh, and we've got an incident. I can't tell what turn that is. 15?
Yeah, looks like turn 15.
Mercer wreck, Bray.
Just follows.
Oh.
Oh boy! Spins out ahead. They try to avoid him, but Arboro car doesn't have a chance. Witness that action in the picture-in-picture.
We come back to Bray making a move on Duritz as soon as it ends.
A lot of action back there. Those guys who pit. Oh boy. Now Bray sends it a little too hard in turn 3. Goes wide, has to stand on the brake pedal.
Michi jumps into the pits.
Probably not a bad time to do it. He was relatively stuck trying to get past Dan Cran, and Nate Specht was licking up his inside, so. Now Nate Specht about 3 seconds behind Kerstetter, who overtook him earlier. Kerstetter currently sitting in P3 now. It's like Matt Lehman served his drive-through. It's a short pit lane, so it's not too damaging on this track, luckily. And he's back out on track and in action, only 1/10, right on the bumper of Sam Rex. Samrek gets a little drifty into that corner. Oh man, Matt Lehman looks up the inside into the hairpin, makes it look easy as he slides on past. Way to take advantage. Very slick.
Give him space and he will capitalize.
Then our other battle going on is John Sparks, 3/10 behind Dan Good. He's trying to put that Ferrari past McLaren in front of him. John Sparks getting a little bit closer to Dan Good, or it looked like he would be until he ran off into the grass. Lost about a second there. Pat Rust is closing in on him now because of it.
Do you remember how many drivers we started with tonight?
I think it was over 30. We only have 24 left. And if you're curious, Ryan Yee is now 11.2 seconds ahead of Daniel. Running low 30, or rather he's running high 38s at the moment. So is Daniel though. Daniel managing to match his pace. Also managing to stay about 5 seconds ahead of Kerstetter, which is not easy.
Nope.
And I think Timothy Flomger, who still has 2.5 seconds of dry, clean, or rather clean air in front of him, has already pit and is attempting an undercut. I think it might work out pretty well for him. Check what the average pit time is. About 22 seconds. You can get 21 seconds in the pits here.
It's pretty fast.
Right. So with Flomger being 30...
We are halfway through. Keep it up.
Flomger is 22 seconds behind JD Daniel. So if JD Daniel gets more than a 22 second pit, that puts Flomger in P2. Or at least spatially in P2. Could be a huge undercut move if the air in front of him stays relatively clear or doesn't get too slow.
He's putting a lot of trust on the drivers ahead.
Oh yeah.
But it is definitely possible.
But right now and with his current pace, it could work out for him. He's also doing mid-38s, lapping a little bit faster than JD Daniel. Just a 10th or so, but 10th or so is all you need when it's this close. And of course, with Mr. Sir only 1.5 seconds behind Flomger, that means he is also fighting for a podium here. Undercut's working wonders so far halfway through this race. Mr. Sir's actually catching up to Flomger, by the way. Lapping a little bit faster. I think the Lamborghini is a faster car on this track at the moment, but the McLaren probably holds its weight a little bit better towards the end of the race. Language 10, who I believe is Diego, is in the chat because his race was unfortunately ended. Says he's just going to weeb out and play other games. What other games, Diego?
I'm gonna go play Minecraft, bro.
Minecraft?
At least send me an invite.
Oh, Diego says Armored Core 6. That's what I'm going to be playing after this race, Diego. I was telling Josh before the race, I think. Or it might have been yesterday that I was telling you. Fantastic game.
There seems to be a lot of pretty decent games coming out right now.
Oh yeah.
Went through a lull of duds. Here we are. Pizza Tower, what's that?
Pizza Tower.
I'm gonna check it out.
He said it's a masterpiece.
Best game? Are you sure? Have you ever heard of Super Mario Brothers 2?
Oh man.
Or like Knack?
Have you ever heard of Bubsy?
Have I ever heard of Bubsy?
You ever heard of Gex, bro?
Buddy. Finished playing that for the month. As Michael Louis looks around the outside of Nick's stand going into turn 3. What a move with the Porsche.
Very nice looking at action in the picture-in-picture so far. Around the inside than the outside.
Yeah, just got a way better run at a turn 1.
Oh yeah, it made it still, even still. Makes it look like he's just in a faster car. Dang. Mr. Sir takes a peek up the inside, but Flomger covers it. If I'm Flomger, I don't think I want to race back here. If I think he's getting good looks up the inside, I'm just gonna let him have it. But they might not know that they're in contention for a podium right now. So if they did, I don't think they'd want to waste any time racing wheel to wheel. They're both definitely losing time doing this, as they were each a second and 2 seconds slower on the last lap. We've got a bunch of Dan Cran fans in the peanut gallery.
I was gonna say, it seems like we got a cheer going on.
They are cheering. Give me a CRA in.
What does that spell? Maybe next week.
And Sir still racing. They're gonna cross the line, and now they're doing 39s. But up front, JD Daniel is doing 38.7s. I'm telling you, man. They're gonna wish they didn't do this.
Every time will show them their foolishness.
Yeah, as it stood before this lap, they are spatially in P2 and 3. But if they continue to slow themselves down like this, that's going to change.
Brave wants to look to the inside on Brooker Quig, but elects not to. Really putting the pressure on the Audi.
Mr. Sir's very close to the rear of Flamger. Thinks about diving in the inside in this corner and doesn't. Elects to try and stay as close as he can. For the final corner coming up, looks up the inside, but it's defended by Flamger. Mr. Sir manages another clean exit. It's a little bouncy on the way to his first corner. Once again, both drivers put in a high 39. I don't want to watch this. They're sabotaging themselves.
It's painful.
It is.
It's what must be done. This Nick Sand has a drive-through.
Birthday drive-through.
Beep beep. Come through the drive-through, the pits, and get a high five from everybody.
We have cake. Well, Nick Sand, I'm sorry about what happened to you tonight, but happy birthday anyways. There's cake in the broadcaster's booth.
No, there isn't. It's a lie. I would have ate it. There's no cake.
You don't know.
I was promised cake. I'm angry.
You don't know. Just saying, man.
What you mean? I'm here.
I'm also here.
But are you?
But you're there.
Underwear.
Got him.
Got whip-nated.
Oh my gosh. Mr.
Can somebody
Sir.
go for an overtake?
Mr. Sir's trying. He's trying his absolute bestest. Now Flamger's caught up to Dan Good. Marty Missile, I can't confirm that it's St. Nick's birthday or not, but that's a rumor I heard. Oh my gosh. Flamger's gonna close him off again on the outside. Getting back to the racing line. Oh, Mr. Sir gets very unsettled and slides. Absolute Tokyo drift mode coming out of that corner. No longer has an ability to challenge for a little bit. Germ says this fight's going to end with a punt. Yeah, it's going to be either ending with a punt or with both of these drivers finishing P5 and P6 instead of the P2 and 3 that they were looking at earlier. Do you think Mr. Sir's driver number 747 is a Boeing reference?
Man's so fast, he's like a plane. I don't know. I don't think so.
You got that best-in-class aerodynamics. It's already caught up to the rear of Flamger again. They are slowing down big time. The thing is, Flamger was not driving this slow for a very long time, so either some very extreme degradation has caught up to him, or it's quite possible that he has pressure loss. Can that really happen with wet tires, though?
I mean, yeah, you can puncture anything that's got air in it, but the odds of it happening in a wet race are very, very low.
Germs says that he's betting he has 3 warnings. You might be right. But that only affects you in like 2 corners on this track, really. One of them being turn 1. Flomger's running like 2 seconds or more slower than he usually does.
I have no idea. I'm gonna have to ask these guys after the race.
Oh, there it is. There's the punt that sends them both into the sand at the hairpin.
Damn.
Mr. Sir tried a risky move, and Flomger tried a risky move covering him up on the inside. Both drivers try something risky. Neither driver makes it out comfortably. Now, Mr. Sir has to defend Michi and Peter O'Brien as Spengler, or rather as Specht, got past him. Germs, you called it, man.
A man's got a feeling. He knows.
He knew. He knew daggone well.
We very quickly have gone from 40 minutes left to 14 minutes left.
We had a lot of good racing there.
We did.
Still have a lot of good racing there. There's a 3-way battle in front of our eyes. Michi's trying to take Sir. O'Brien's trying to take Michi.
Ugh. Jeez. Well, hey. In the picture-in-picture, we've got the only other close battle on track, Dan Good and John Sparks. Patiently waiting.
Sir's caught back up to Peter O'Brien. Michi's still on the back of Mr. Sir on our main camera. Diego says shout out to Spark for being in the Ferrari in P13. Yeah. Yeah, I noticed him on the practice server, I think yesterday, blowing my times out of the water.
Solid race so far.
Definitely not a bad one. I've enjoyed it. JD Danielson's it into the pits, which means Kerstetter is currently sitting in second place. Still 12 seconds behind Ryan Yee, who's still putting in 38s, high 38s. I have a feeling, though, that he's kind of just pacing himself with whoever's in P2 at the moment. He has a obviously comfortable lead.
Surprisingly, he's actually lapping over half a second slower than Kerstetter right now.
Yep. Mr. Sir is going to be in pain with himself, as he's been half a second behind O'Brien for a while now, and probably feels that he'd be moving a lot faster in front of him.
Yeah, just gotta do his best not to let the frustration set in, especially after the previous incident.
Oh yeah. Just relax, stay close, and look for an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
Matt Lehman picks up a drive-through again. It's either his second or his third drive-through. That is incredibly tough to see. I think you get a drive-through and then does it reset? I think it gives you like one more warning to get.
Yeah, 3 and then 1.
Nice. So that's tough to pick up that many drive-throughs. That's a lot of warnings. I think drivers tend to overlook that track limits at turn 1 is just an automatic warning.
Haven't really experienced it,
Yeah, track,
but
like
I'll make sure I keep an eye out for it.
in the race with track limits at turn 1, if you break the limit, it doesn't matter whether you gain time or not. You could be 5 seconds slower at that corner. If you go off track at turn 1, I believe it's an automatic warning no matter what.
Wow.
Dirty Deegan says he's full throttle through the hairpin after that if it happens to him. You mean like Josh Damiani in the practice race?
No, through the hairpin, not through the chicane.
Oh yeah, the hairpin. At least the chicane's a little more healthier.
Yeah, you don't kill anybody there. Although it would be kind of funny to watch someone try and go full throttle through that tiny gap.
Ryan Yee still 12 seconds ahead. Him and Kerstedt are both slowing down and doing 39s at the moment, so I believe that's because the track has gotten a little bit wet and a little bit colder since we started.
Just a little bit, but enough to make a difference. Bray just cutting his way through the back of the field, takes another driver. It's now up to P15.
They said Dan Cran in P3. Write it down, write it down. Mom, get the camera.
Stop the count.
Spangler's into the pits. By the way, JD Daniel came out of the pits. Currently in P4. That's almost definitely going to change to a P2 or P3.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the quick math here. It's going to be close to P2, but he should be P3.
By the way, Matt Lehman has still not served that drive-through. Betting he's running out of laps to do that. Oh, goes into the pits now to serve it.
Get it out of the way. Don't take the disqualification now. Bray now gets ahead of Victor Diaz.
Let's move. Diaz hadn't pit yet, so maybe he elected to not fight him.
Could be possible.
Matt Lehman comes out of the pits in P20 after serving his drive-through penalty.
As Diaz now goes into the pits, so it looks like you were correct.
Came out of the pit successfully, still well in the lead.
Kerstedt ran in as they're out of time to not.
They both have.
Daniel takes over P3, just over 4 seconds behind Kerstedt. Dan Cran's into the pits.
that ugly. I mean, gorgeous pink Mercedes coming out of the pit lane on your screen. Slots in behind Mr. Sir.
The pit window is closing now.
By the way, we missed something. I don't know why, but Timothy Flomger dropped. Well, I guess we didn't miss something. It was because of the spin and the hairpin with him and Mr. Sir, but he dropped down to P11, many more positions than Mr. Sir did, who managed to still stay in P6. Just kind of an awesome result despite the tough spin and the hairpin.
I wonder if Timothy had any damage.
Right, man. Leader is on the final lap.
Had
Give
it
it all
been
you
an
can.
extended stop.
Right. By the way, Kerstetter managed to nail an overcut. JD Daniel pitted well before Kerstetter did. I want to say like between 5 and 10 laps beforehand. And Kerstetter comes out of the pits after being behind Daniel for the entire race. Comes out in P2, 4.5 seconds ahead of Daniel. Something
Playing
happened.
the long games.
The overcut worked as well.
Yeah.
Undercut actually didn't work as well as we expected to because of the fighting.
The fighting and those incidents up front.
Right. Leader's going to be crossing the finish line shortly as he approaches the final corner. Give it up, everybody, for Ryan Yee, taking another win, putting on an absolute masterclass for us.
The leader has finished the race.
So he drove away and made it look easy.
Brings himself that much closer to the top of the
Oh
leaderboards.
no! Peter O'Brien and Mr. Sir clash in the fast right-hander of Sector 3. Both of them drop down many positions. Peter O'Brien, it looks like, sticks to P7.
Oh, and Mr. Sir goes deep in the last corner, and he's going to end up back behind his old friend, Flander.
Oh my gosh, there's Flomger. Back at it. Sir drops all the way down to P11 from P6 after him and O'Brien had a scuffle on the last lap.
Tough finish.
Otherwise, we do have Ryan Yee sitting in P1. Wonderful win from him. Kerstetter took P2, and another huge comeback drive from Kerstetter. I'm sensing a trend. This is like the third time this season that we've seen Kerstetter come from a P9 or a P8 position and make it onto the podium and get an interview from us.
He just likes talking to you.
Right? And the third guy, JD Daniel, doing donuts in the service road. He took P3, and despite being a D1 silver, managed to hold tight and had a really good race. Now let's hear from these guys, eh?
Let's see who we can get.
See if we can get our winner, our winning lad, as soon as he enters the cooldown room. We'll snatch him.
No, Diego, I won't work on your Ionic 6. I'm not EV certified.
Well, we can start with JD Daniel. Looks like he's ready to come to the booth. JD, welcome to the commentator's booth, and congratulations on that P3. Awesome qualification, and just awesome job keeping those laps clean during the race, and came home with a podium. How you feeling?
Yeah, I feel really good. Wasn't expecting that coming into that tonight, but I'm definitely happy about it. P3 overall and P1 in class, especially after the season I've been having, I'll definitely take it.
Yeah, definitely an awesome result. Something to be proud of. The quali was awesome to watch. The race was awesome to watch. Let me tell you, you D1 silver drivers really put on a show today.
It's not all just D1. Everyone in D1 is freaking quick as heck.
Oh, yeah.
But the silvers definitely lucked out having a drier track than the gold drivers for quali, so that's why you saw it so lopsided. But
Right.
I mean, it was definitely a nerve-wracking race for me, just trying to keep it on track. Definitely wasn't fighting anybody, but can't thank my teammates at Tier Sim Racing enough, especially Jeff giving me a setup. Our sim racing mom, Javier, and the guys at the Into the Paddock podcast on Spotify. Go ahead and like that and follow that, please.
Yeah, there you go. Well, congrats again. Enjoy it tonight.
Yep, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for the broadcast.
You got it. Thanks for the race. JD Daniel, everyone. And now, we've got our race winner here in the booth with us. Ryan Yee. You may not have took pole. It may not have been a perfect weekend, but you drove clean. You maybe lucked out a little bit, and you drove off into the sunset. How you feeling?
Feeling pretty good. Pace at the end didn't look particularly good for me when compared to Ed, but
Yeah, Ed was catching up a little bit, but you had that 12-second gap.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine you weren't sweating too much that he'd be able to cover that.
Yeah. Well, it was still a little bit of like, I should be faster, in my head, even though I didn't need to be.
Yeah, right. Was it the track getting a little bit colder, or was it a big degradation issue, or a combination of both?
I mean, I could blame the tires. I think I was just driving a little bit poorly at the end after there was nothing else for me to really worry about.
Right, that makes sense. Did you have any clue what happened with Minning at the start? We were assuming that he had a box issue, just jumping the gun at the start or something similar to that.
Yeah, it appears that he started too far ahead when compared to, the row behind him.
Mhm.
But he started like where he should have been for P1, so I don't know. Maybe the starting procedure here is a little bit off.
It might be. So I've seen a little bit of sensitivity on that in different tracks. Unfortunate for him. I think he picked up that drive through, and then I think he immediately picked up another one, and that more or less ended his race. But I know you had it. I know you had it locked in the bag, regardless, right?
Yeah, maybe. We were practicing together, so I was gonna take it easy on him if he was a little bit slow.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, congrats again on another fantastic win. Be looking forward to watching you race again next week.
Have a good night.
You too. Congrats again. Enjoy it. All right.
Ed is not in the channels.
I was gonna say we've also got Ed Kerstetter. Ed is actually in one. Can try to grab him. I bet he's waiting there for us. Pull him up. I can get him that high. I don't think I can. Boy. All right, here we go. Ed, it was a little
Hello.
difficult, but welcome to the booth, my man. Congrats on
I was
P2.
wondering what was going on. I
Yeah.
jumped in one of the chats. I was like, wait a second. This doesn't sound like the broadcast.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
thanks.
I had a long ways to drag you up here. But congrats. How are you feeling?
Thanks. I'm lucky this was a rain race because McLaren is absolutely terrible here in the dry.
Oh, yeah.
And the wet definitely equalized it a little bit. Coming into it, I honestly was just hoping for no mistakes, and I would have been happy with a top 10, honestly. So to get second definitely exceeded expectations. So I'm happy with that.
Might have been happy with a top 10, but you got much better than that with a solid P2. You, once again, I think for the third time this season, put on a heck of a comeback drive.
Yeah, that seems to be the theme of this season.
Yeah, right. I was
Start 10th or 15th and work my way up.
Exactly. I was telling Josh that I was sensing a pattern.
Hopefully that can continue, and we didn't just jinx it. So we'll see.
Right. I'm sure you'll continue to be comfortable. I know Ryan Yee might be getting closer and closer on the leaderboards, but you still have a sizable gap.
Yeah, and luckily in the next two tracks, Indy, the McLaren's pretty good. I think it's probably second best car other than the Lambo, and then Watkins Glen is kind of even across the board. So
right,
good two tracks to finish on. And just gotta try to keep that buffer.
Yeah, I agree. As a McLaren driver myself, I couldn't be looking forward to them more. Something I noticed and wanted to ask about, towards the end of the race, JD Daniel, when it was ahead of you, right, but went into the pits, and you pulled off somewhat of a large overcut both on him and the race in general, and you ended up being about 4.5 seconds ahead of him. Was that something you were planning or a goal of yours?
No, I was actually surprised to see him jump in the pits. The track was actually getting better there at the end. The line was drying up a little bit, and I actually had like a 37 in it toward the end there. So I was surprised to see him jump in, because the only thing I could think of is there's a lap car, I think it was Nick, that was slightly up ahead, and I wonder if he just wanted to avoid getting held up. It's so hard running behind somebody here. You kind of lose a half second because you can't see. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised when he jumped in, and then Nick was courteous and let me by pretty easily. And then just wanted to put my head down and get some good laps in to try to, catch him or put a little bit of distance between us. So it worked out.
Yeah, it definitely worked out for you. Assuming he just caught up with some traffic, or maybe he had some issues with his tires or something, but obviously worked out well for you in the end.
Yeah, I was surprised to see some of the guys short pitting too in the at the start of the race, because you only lose like 15 seconds or something like that, 20 seconds. I was surprised to see a few guys up top kind of jump in, because you're at the back of the pack probably in about 5 laps, having to work your way through traffic. So, but not complaining, worked out for me.
Yeah, I actually think at least for 2 of the drivers, it didn't end up working out. But with about 15 minutes left of the race, Mr. Sir and Timothy Flomger had undercut. They pitted right when the pit window opened, and they looked to take P2 and P3 because of that undercut.
Okay.
But they ended up racing each other and spun each other out. And
oh no!
Okay. That did not happen, but it was weird because, like you said, the overcut definitely worked for many, but I think the undercut might be valid too. It almost was.
Yeah, I didn't know they tangled. I have to go back and take a look at where they were before they did that, or before they started racing.
It was
because that would have surprised the heck out of me for for that to work. So
Yeah, we were surprised seeing it in real time. It was a good race to watch, so definitely some decent viewing material.
good. Happy to go back or looking forward to going back and watching it.
Yeah. But that'll be it. Thank you once again, Ed. Looking forward to potentially talking to you again, and enjoy P2 tonight.
Fingers crossed. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks.
All right, Josh. That takes us to the end of our show today, huh?
Brings us to the end of the line. For now.
Next week, we race in
Indy.
I don't hate that track. I like Indy. Looking forward to it.
I don't mind it either.
Well, we'll be here for all of you who want to come and watch that race with us. And that'll be it for us here at SRA tonight. I hope each and every one of you have a wonderful day.
It has been the longest off-season of SRA. The rust has been wiped off and the cars are revved up and ready to go. Welcome to SRA.
We're on the way for SRA.